Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, welcome to episode number 225 of the 31st Lap. Excited to have all of you along for the ride with us. Going to be a quick half hour. Going to be talking with Ray Hyer a little bit about the first part of his season over at Outlaw Speedway, coming to you live from the new and improved FingerLakes1.com studios from the North Park building here at Academy Square on Cuga Street, relocated for a couple weeks ago, and everybody's getting pretty well settled in over here. Still trying to catch up a little bit from the backlog over on the office side of things, but the podcast stuff all moving right along, full steam ahead. We talked. It's hard to dodge the information about Matt Shepard. He's winning all over the place. Picked up 2 more over the weekend. One of the guys who has been quietly doing much the same at Matt Shepard's home track on Friday at Outlaw Speedway is one Ray Hyer. We've got him waiting on the line to talk a little bit about what his season has been like here in the early stages of it. The season has so far rewarded him with 3 wins, and it's one of those cases where you got to be a little bit patient with it, because sure enough that division is plenty competitive, and you got to pick your way through traffic a little bit. Ray, joining us on the hotline. Ray, man, how are you?
Good. How are you, Chris?
We're doing okay. I got to fix the screen tag. I somehow managed to lose it as we were opening up the show, so I'm fixing that as we go. But the season so far been pretty kind to you, regardless of racing conditions over there, being able to get that car to the front.
Yeah. The car itself. Chris Woodard and I kind of built it in 5 days here, back about a month ago, and it's. I haven't had to touch anything on it. I'm checking everything over, but it's telling me it don't need work every week. And
right.
I'm happy with that.
What goes into making a fast 4-cylinder car? I mean, the field at this point seems like it's fairly even. You've got a bunch of regulars that are finishing up front just like you are, and you got to pick your way through. And in 20 laps, 15 laps, it's a long time for the 4-cylinders. On a track that size, so you've got time to be patient, but at the same time, there's a lot of equality when you start racing your way up through the field.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the cars are getting faster every week. They've stepped up. They really, I see a lot of the guys really want to try and catch me. It's just time and experience, and I just go through my checklist and do what I've always done, and it works out.
The checklist getting progressively shorter. This is the only car at this point left in the stable after having some engine problems and then having the accident earlier this year that took the other car out. How's that play into preparation week to week, and beyond that, the necessity to tiptoe and tread carefully while still maintaining that aggressive approach to get to the front?
The main thing right now, Chris, is I'm trying to keep a real careful eye on the motor. I've almost got the valve cover off it every week, going through this, going through that, checking the oil. And just the main part of it is the motor. Other than that, we've pretty much got the setup down. You just go through and check your nuts and bolts and make sure that nothing's giving out on you. And you put your time in on it. If you're nice to the car will be nice to you.
What are you doing in terms of a maintenance package on a 4-cylinder these days? Technology, regardless of the type of motorsport, has evolved, and you guys are allowed to do a little bit more with the motors. The more performance coming out of the motor, the more upkeep is going to require. What's a maintenance program like on one of these?
To be honest with you, they're really nowhere near what a modified or an IMCA or street anything like them are, because you don't have half the adjustments on them. 90% of the car is stock. So, and there's I've got like 6 lubrication points on the whole car, where modified you got like 50 or 60.
Right.
Other than that, the motor just, it's just the expertise of knowing how to set the motor up. You got to take care of the timing, check your wires, your switches, because we've already had a coil and a switch go bad since we built this car. We've just been lucky and got through with it.
As we were talking before the show got started, you've got the opportunity to a little bit more to the car than you used to be able to do. You can get in and do a little bit of work on the head, and you can do some alternatives with the cam. And you said that doing the work on the head was a little bit easier on the pocketbook. What's the class now in terms of expense? Because it seemed like it was designed to be an entry-level class, and then as it got closer to the 2010 threshold, more and more money was being invested into the class. Now you guys are allowed to do stuff with wheel offsets, wheel sizes, and milling the heads, doing the cams and stuff. Has this has that stabilized the budget? So what you're spending to compete in this class?
I want to say yes and no, Chris. The wheel offsets and everything like that, the wheels don't really cost any more than what the stock wheels would cost if you bought them. Basically, and to be honest with you, having the offset and be able to get the car handle better, it more takes care of the car than it hurts the car.
Sure.
In the long run, it's probably actually cheaper on the pocketbook.
Right.
The mill rule on the head, Outlaw and Woodall taking that out of the equation, that to me saved us from having to every 3 or 4 years find a different head. Now we can just mill our heads down, and per se, instead of only being able to use them 3 to 5 years, we're able to use them for 10 or 15. So really, it's the cars themselves. Yeah, it's with the aluminum bodies and everything. It's $3,500, $4,000 to actually build one, but once they're going, they almost take care of themselves.
You hit on the aluminum bodies. For the longest time, those had to have the stock, basically the stock body panels on them. And as those cars, I guess my first question is, those cars, are they as hard to find as everybody would suggest? It seems like when we go to Ohio, we see tons of them all over the place. Drag racers, they're after those Fox body Mustangs and some of those Supers and things along those lines. Are they as hard to come by as it would, as one might have you believe?
Yes and no. It really depends on the area you're in.
Okay.
Like around here, yeah, they're hard to find. I mean, you get, like you said, you got the drag racers, you got circle track racers, and then you got people that just want to build them for hobbies. So people snatch them up just as quick as what they're giving them up.
Mm-hmm.
And really to find them, like you go out to Ohio and stuff like that, there's really not a lot of 4-cylinder racing out there.
Right.
So you're in those states, I guess, that don't really run the 4-cylinders a lot. You're more apt to see them more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I've even noticed, like here a couple years ago, I lived down in Georgia. They're almost obsolete to find down there. They're harder to find down there than they are here because that's all they race down there is 4-cylinders.
Right. So that being the case, the transition to allowing the aluminum bodies, what did that do in terms of how long you can run a car before it's wore out, so to say, and able to keep more cars racing longer? Did it help regenerate the class, so to say?
Me, yeah, I'd have to say it helped me out a lot because I could go through 1 or 2 cars a year with just regular body on them.
Wow.
And being able to, I'm rough on cars.
Yeah.
Being able to put the aluminum body on it, and instead of a car being all tore up and you got to throw it away at the end of the year, you can cut the stock body off it and put the aluminum body on it, and it not only saves you the car and gives you more time out of the car, but it lightens the car up and gives you more options on weight distribution to put into the car.
Sure.
Which also helps the car handle better.
Even as the class is, how much is coming back onto the driver and being able to keep the momentum up, being able to find the lane and getting, as you alluded to, the weight distributions right so that you can get the car to hook up and go?
I'll be honest with you, Chris. It takes a driver. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to brag myself up, but to keep these cars going and running a complete circle and not losing all your momentum going through a corner and that with these cars, it takes a driver.
You've been in a couple different types of cars. 4-cylinders most of late. You had a real nice season last year. Came on strong at the end of the year and picked up a pile of wins there. But before that, I remember you running the red number 80 street stock, and then after that you got away from racing in our area for a while. And I'm making the presumption that that's when you had went down to Georgia. What got you back into the sport? What got you back into the 4-cylinders?
I never really got out of it, Chris. I mean, I've been around, and throughout the years, I've run a car here and there. I just when I quit racing, it was back in 07. I had split up with my marriage and everything like that. I was basically starting over on a new life, and I decided just to give up on the racing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Basically to stabilize the finances, you know.
Sure, makes sense.
I did that for 4 or 5 years, and really was no more far ahead than what I was when I was racing. So I decided to, you know, if we all got to live a broken world, I may as well race and enjoy it.
Right. So the jump back in to being a regular at Outlaw Speedway specifically came back with the 4-cylinder car. Why not go back in with the street stock, or at that point the crate late models were starting to gain some pretty serious momentum both at Outlaw and with some opportunities to tour?
Actually, here, I don't know, before last year before that, and the year before that, I ran an IMCA car.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, I ran Tony Harris's backup car for about half the season. Had my motor in it, and
Right.
I did well with it, and ended up wrecking it, and it just got out of hand on money. I couldn't afford it.
Sure.
And I'll be honest with you, that's the street stock and the modifieds and the IMCA cars and everything like that. They have helped me immensely as far as my driving skills on these 4-cylinders.
How do you mean?
People don't. You really wouldn't think so, but I actually drive the car a lot like a street stock now because I spent so much time in the street stock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you've got so much horsepower behind you in that, and then you turn around and jump back into these, you've really got time to think about what you're going to do before you get to the corner.
Right.
As to 90% of the class that have never been outside of the 4-cylinder class, you know, they're still, back before I started running the V8s and that, I used to have a hard time keeping track of the gauges in these while I was racing them.
Right.
And it just running the V8s has just given me the advantage of being able to calm down and take more time running the 4-cylinder because, it takes the 4-cylinder longer to get up to speed, and I think it helped out immensely.
Well, the class, I mean, certainly there's lower, it's a reduced horsepower number, and it also, from what you're explaining, it sounds like time almost slows down. So you've got more time to plan your approach. You've got more time to analyze what the track's doing, more time to make sure that you can have clear track around you so that you can hit the mark that you need. And the biggest thing when you don't have the horsepower to make up ground in the straightaways or getting into the corner, getting out of the corner, wherever the car seems to be working the best, is the key is to keep the momentum up. And you hit on that a second ago in running the circle, so to say, and being able to keep that rubber band wound just as tight as possible so that your momentum stays peaked, and ergo you're going to be able to carry that momentum through the corners and make passes.
Right, and I've stressed that to anybody that's ever asked. I'm not bashful about what I do when people ask what I'm doing. It's just these motors have no torque to them. There's no torque, and torque is what makes a car go through a corner.
Right.
So without the torque, the only thing you got to rely on is the horsepower, and we really don't have a lot of that either.
Right.
So the biggest idea is to keep it going. You know, the more RPMs you can have going through the corner to come out of the corner, the better you can go down the straightaway with. So, you know, and to actually be able to set the car up so you can drive through the corner, which is what I'm actually doing. I'm not sliding the car. This car is actually running on Outlaw's track almost like I'm on asphalt.
Sure. Because if you keep the car straight, you're not scrubbing off momentum sideways.
Right. People don't realize the second that car slides, you've knocked 10 mile an hour off your speed. And it takes with these cars, it takes half the straightaway to pick that 10 mile an hour back up.
I wouldn't have guessed that you're losing that much that fast.
Yeah, you really are.
Huh.
I mean, it's you slide these sideways, and when they slide and they catch, you know, they catch a rudder, they stop, or they grab traction. It's almost like putting the brakes on.
Man, it does seem like that driving ability is paramount, and having that extra time, so to say, moving out of the V8s to pick those spots and look at the corner and plan your entry and plan your exit. It certainly makes sense that's going to help produce results at the end of the race. Yeah,
and the IMCA is what really helped me out the most, because these four-cylinders have more tire on them than an IMCA does.
Right.
Like going through a corner than what the IMCA does with these. So.
What tires do you have on that now?
My tires are just a Walmart tire. They're a Douglas tire that I run.
Okay.
The only thing I'm doing that I notice a lot of people don't do is I've got new tires on it every 3 weeks.
Really?
Yes.
Are you talking all the way around, all four tires?
No, mainly the back tires. The front tires, I don't really replace them unless they need to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But the back tires, a compound comes out of them just as well as they do any racing tire. They only take so many hot cycles, and a lot of people don't understand that. They think because they're a stock tire, they don't have compound in them, but they do.
Right. The front tires are going to last longer just based on your driving style. If you're not sliding it, then you're not pulling anything off the front end to begin with.
Right.
Interesting. So you moved in and out of some of the other divisions, and logically so. We've seen a number of different drivers do this because the division's cost prohibitive. It made it a little bit more difficult to go on a regular basis. How did you land on the four-cylinder cars? I mean, we talked about that being a $4,000 budget basically to get in the door, but after that, they essentially run themselves. You've alluded a little bit to having to provide some sort of tire budget for the year just to keep up on your maintenance schedule. How did you end up finding that open door into the four-cylinders? And it certainly seems to fit you well.
That would lay on Brian Grant Jr.'s shoulders.
Yeah.
I would not be able to do this without him. You know, this car, the motors, the car I destroyed. You know, I've done all the work on everything. Where, you know, he doesn't know a lot about working on them. He just wants to own them and drive them. So I basically cut a deal with him last year, and he let me drive one of the cars, and I maintained everything.
Right. And
you know, and that $3,500 to $4,000 budget, that puts you on the racetrack.
Right.
We've got over $10,000 wrapped up in this car.
That's mind blowing. $10,000 on a four-cylinder car. Well, I mean, yes and no. I suppose I can see that you could get there. Sure, I can reason that out. But I mean, some of the other classes, you're not that far from getting a sportsman on the track at that $10,000 mark, or you know, the IMCA might be a little bit more dynamic in terms of what you're spending to get on the track and run at the front. So, is there any thoughts or intentions to get back up into the street stock ranks or try the IMCAs again down the line?
Yeah, I'm not sure which route I'm going, but I'm going to do something. We will probably see what that is here in the next couple months.
Yeah.
I'm basically waiting on finances.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm my main focus right now, I think, is going to be street stocks. There's so many different open options with them as far as tracks to run, and the money that the different tracks that are running all these special shows that they're paying. There's just to me, it's the most viable way to go.
Right.
You know, I'd like to get into a sportsman, but it costs a lot of money to make one of those cars competitive.
Sure.
Because everybody's limited to the same motor. Everybody's spending thousands of dollars on their chassis.
Right. That's true. The street stock division, like you're saying, it's a flexible class, and so with the sounds of things, you're looking at doing a little bit of traveling and seeing some new tracks.
Not so much this year. I might.
Well, I mean, going forward,
I might do some traveling next year. I'm thinking about running that Fight Night series.
Right.
That'll get me around quite a bit because I love 5 Mile Point. I've been over to Skyline a few times. I've run down to Thunder Mountain. Batavia. I've been over to Batavia a few times. There's tracks that I haven't been to in quite a while that I would like to get back to.
The pursuit of the next challenge is something that racers go through all the time. You know, everybody always wants to move up to that next level or get back to something that they had before. With the amount of money that you've already invested in the 4-cylinder cars and the program that you've got, why not stay with that? Why chase the next level?
Believe it or not, I'm not getting rid of the 4-cylinder.
Right. Well,
I've learned from experience. I did that once. You know, I sold all the stuff about street stock. I sold all the street stock stuff. About modified, sold all the modified stuff, and I'm not getting rid of any of my racing stuff anymore. Because when I started doing it again, I had nothing to start with.
Right.
And no, we will keep the 4-cylinders. I may not run for championship in them next year, but we will have them. We will run them.
Is that the goal this year? Is to go after the 4-cylinder title? I mean, right now you're sitting, whether that's your goal or not, you're sitting second in points, and you're within close earshot of Mike Stone.
Yeah, I'm after it. I was after it last year. I'm not gonna mention any names or bring any subjects up, but I feel that I kind of got cheated out of it last year.
Well, that was the pertaining to the tech issue where they had something on the spacer on the carburetor, correct?
Yeah, that all the same subject. It was pertaining to the tech issue.
Yeah. So I mean, out with a bit of a point to prove. I mean, you're looking at the rundown here. Billy Bowers is behind you, Erica Bell, AJ Protzabowski, Chad Ayers, Dan Smart, Chris Percy. You got some stout runners that are right in and around you, and everybody's packed in pretty tight in terms of the longevity of the season. Is there anybody that you know for sure that you've got to get ahead of early on in those features? Otherwise, you're going to have a long night ahead of you.
3 names come to mind.
Yeah, who is it?
Well, there's a fourth if he decides to go back over again. His name's Cody Baker because his car's getting faster every week.
Right.
You got Erica Bell, obviously. She gave me fits Friday night. I had to be real careful not to run into her to pass her. And then I couldn't get away from her. She was on me most of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Bowers, that kid's got a fast car. He's actually got the sister to the car that I wrecked. So I know it's every bit as fast as mine. If he figures it out, I'm going to have my hands full with him.
Right.
And the other is Mike Stone. He seems to be being Mr. Consistent this year.
Right. It's a long season. I mean, that consistency thing certainly does. It does pay dividends when you look at the long term, the big picture, so to say, with the points racing. Something just came to mind is you mentioned earlier about having the valve cover off, and you're checking on that, and the cars don't have any low end torque, so you've got to keep the car wound up. If you're running those high RPMs, lap after lap after lap, is that what's that doing to the motor turning it like that because you don't have crazy horsepower, and you certainly don't have the torque to get up off the corners. Are you playing a lot with gearing and trying to make sure that you keep it in a particular, not so much a power range, because obviously and all the motors are going to have a power band, but are you also trying to limit how many RPMs that's turning so you don't wind it too tight and put some of those valve train components in jeopardy?
Yeah, we have. I don't have to do a lot of gear changing. I'm playing with them a little bit here and there, trying to. I've played with 2 different sets, and I've won with both of them. And I'm still trying to. I got to put myself on a clock to see which way I'm faster with them.
Right.
But that's what happened to my other motor here a couple weeks ago. Is we ran it $8,000 all season last year long, and then we never had it freshened, and it broke a piston under caution.
Yeah, that's not good. The action over there was quite good on Friday night. We talked about Matt Shepard coming away with the win in the modifieds. He got the lead on lap 21 after Joe Dean stopped on the track. Tyler Seary hanging on to second place ahead of Steve Payne, Corey Costa, Justin Wright in the top 5. Matt went on to win at Canandaigua Motorsports Park, and he's the first driver to repeat in the early stages of this season. Became the repeat winner there. The battle among the top 5 was a hot one. Eventually, Matt Shepard got up to the point lead spot with about 15 to go, and the feature actually ran off flag to flag. Was working through traffic, and the final little bit, nobody was able to catch up to him. Justin Harris taking second place, Alan Johnson third, Steve Payne, Eric Rudolph in the top 5. Bryce Davis winning in the Rush Late Models over there at Outlaw on Friday night. Jason Knowles was out front early. Jeremy Wonderling took advantage on a restart back on lap 17. They went back and forth. Davis ended up getting the lead for good. After the slide jobs back and forth set up an awesome feature. Davis ended up getting the lead for good on lap 24. Wonderling was next. Wayne Robinson, Kurt Stebbins, Brian Knowles in the top 5. Let's see. I went too far. Richard Michael, he had a great run in the IMCA feature. He started 9th and got the lead in just 7 laps, 2 caution periods. Let the field come back up to him, but they couldn't do anything with him. Bo Ballard was second. Rich Karlowski, Todd Stone, Sean Bruce in the top 5. Ray, he picked up the win after getting past Erica Bell. We talked about A.J. Potsabowski, Chris Percy, Dante Mancuso, all those guys in the top 5. Glenn Wertenauer picking up a win in the street hobby stock feature over Chuck Winslow. Dan Mazzarisi, Jared Hill, and Carl Cleveland in the top 5. Carl Comfort won the Crate Sportsman feature over Tommy Collins, Rob Bussey, Lauren Lincoln, Brett Bono. Cole Yaus won the youth feature over Jordan Bacon, Austin LeBar. Over at, did I miss the rest of the Canandaigua stuff in there? We'll get all the Canandaigua stuff when we get to the Saturday night stuff.
I only heard Modifieds Canandaigua.
Yeah, I got all the notes put together by Friday night tracks and Saturday night tracks, and I panicked not thinking about how I had it sorted up. Patrick Emmerling won the 75-lap race champions feature over at Spencer Speedway. Matt Hirschman was giving him trouble, but couldn't do anything with him. Chuck Hosfeld, Tommy Catalano, George Scora in the top 5. Chris Finocchio won the New York State Superstock feature with Chris Vogler, was right on his back bumper. Nate Peckham picked up 3rd. Steve Paseric and Zach Wills in the back half of the top 5 over there. Over at Brewerton on Friday, Billy Decker went from 14th to the win there. He got to 2nd place with 11 laps to go and then ran down Jeremy Smith. He had to make up a straightaway under green flag, so he had some work to do, but he did so, got to the point of lap 28. They traded the lead a couple times before Decker locked it down for good on lap 30. Tommy Sears Jr. followed him. Then Smith, Gary Tompkins, Jimmy Phelps in the top 5. Tyler Trump won the Sportsman feature. Josh Kenny winning the Mod Lights. Ray Belcher winning the 4-cylinder feature over there. Saturday over there at Fulton Speedway, Tim Sears Jr. did one better, and he picked up a win. He fought for a long time with Pat Ward with 10 to go. Max McLaughlin was right there, ready to capitalize, but the opportunity was never given to him. Final turns, it was Sears holding on to a slim margin. Ward, McLaughlin, Phelps, Chris Heil at the line. Ryan Howland won again in his farewell tour with the Patriot Sprints. Ryan Howland winning over there, got the win over Larry White and Chuck Ebing. Final 10 laps ran without a yellow in a bunch of fields, so nobody was able to really even get close to Brian Holland at that point. Danny Varon and John Preston in the top 5. Mike Phelps won the first of 2 sportsman features there. Jessica Power winning the second. Dale Caswell winning the late models. Tom Juneau and Stephen Marshall won the novice features for the sportsman. Fulton is just jam-packed with sportsman cars. They're running 2 full-point features a night, and they're running 2 groups of the novice cars. Just fantastic racing over there and tons of support. Canandaigua Motorsports Park, Dave Marcichelli picked up his 3rd in the sportsman ranks. Ricky Newton and Tim Baker made contact. They shoved up the track, and that opened the door for Marcichelli to jump out in front. And once he was there, he pulled away. Paul Guerreri, he threw a lot at him and ended up getting second past Ricky Newton on the last lap, but couldn't get enough to take that win away. King Bristol Matt Guerreri finishing in the top 5. CJ Guerreri got the checkers in a spectacular street stock race, beating Mark Manutolo. There was some fireworks after the race in Victory Lane. Adam DePay, Bob Bono, Mike Welch following them. Lee Sanders won the 305 feature. Cameron Tuttle won the New Legends main over Brandon Michaud and Ben Carlson. Utica was rained out, unfortunately, again. Utica on June 11th is going to have the AMA Motocross Series at that new track that was built on their grounds. June 11th is also going to be the date at 5 Mile Point for the Super Dirt Car Series, and on the 20th of June, Outlaw Speedway is going to welcome the Modifieds for a visit there. Anthony Scott, in RC action over at Small Addictions Raceway in Auburn. Anthony Scott picked up a win in the 200 lapper that was held Wednesday night, just last night, and did a great job in that one. Ended up getting the lead right around lap 60, and he gave some time back in the pit stop portion, but had enough where he was able to hold on to that lead and won by a couple seconds over second place. So now he's leading the points in the mini-series there. Anthony Guerreri finished 6th, if I remember correctly, in the 200, and that gave him the tour points lead overall outright. He came into the race tied with Mike Cooley for the points lead in that one. Ray, we talked a little bit about a bunch of different tracks that you said that you liked and you wanted to get back to. You like the looks of that Fight Night Street Stock Series. Where do those rules compare to what you used to have when you were running the Street Stock division?
When I used to run the street stock division, when it started out, it was pretty much a hobby stock on 8-inch tires.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my first year, that red car that I had, it had a full firewall in it. It had, we were able to run headers, but other than that, it had a stock rear end in it. It had an automatic transmission in it. Mm-hmm. I think we were able to run the 500 Holly at that time.
Right.
Other than Rochester, but other than that, 10 years ago, the street stock was basically what the hobby stock is today.
Gotcha. That gives a little bit of frame of reference for anybody that's wondering how those fit side by side. If you're looking for a comparison to Outlaw now, I saw Carl Cleveland's name in the rundown over there, and I remembered the super stock days at Black Rock Speedway, which it wasn't a pro stock, it wasn't a street stock, it was an entity that was all to itself with those giant Nerf bars on the side. Do you ever miss those days?
I'll be honest with you, Chris. If them street stocks put a 10-inch tire on them and a 4-barrel carburetor on them, they would be what the super stocks were 10 years ago.
Yeah, but those cars looked so cool with those bubble style bodies on them. They weren't slab sided really. They had those giant Nerf bars on the side, and you could lay on each other. And that was sort of the order of the day. When those guys started showing up at Canandaigua, the pro stocks got a little bit antsy. You could lay on each other, and it was some fun racing. It got expensive for some guys, and I think maybe the division sort of priced itself out of being feasible. But that was a fun class for a long time.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely fun to watch. I wish they hadn't honestly done away with them. There's a lot of people that put a lot of chassis away and never got them back out because of it.
Are those chassis still around?
There are some around.
Really?
I'll be honest with you. If you look at Jim Schuyler's car, I believe that was his old super stock.
Really?
Yeah, I believe he just converted it over to a 4-link and started running it. So there's really changing the rear end nowadays basically is all you pretty much got to do to change them over to make them a street stock.
Jeez, That was it was an entertaining class, and I mean, it's neat to see some of the drivers that in my first experience over there at Black Rock when that super stock division was going, to see some of those names still popping up every now and again. But that class was unique, and I think the rules, if I remember right, the rules were different even just from Black Rock to Woodhull when those cars. That was almost a class that was exclusive just to the track in Dundee.
Yes. Dundee and Woodhull, I believe that's. I don't remember ever seeing them anywhere else, to be honest with you. But it was definitely a fun class.
It was
fun to watch. I raced Ed Mills' car, I think, one time, and that was definitely fun. So I miss them.
It was a neat one. Before we get out of here, I can't believe we went over on time a little bit, but it's no big deal. It was good talking with you. You mentioned a lot of names. I know Brian Grant came up. You talked about having a bunch of motor work done and being able to maintain that program. I know a lot of your stuff is self-maintained, but I'm sure that there's people that you wanted to make mention of to help get you to the track.
Yeah, Rice's Auto, they helped me out a lot with doing my tire maintenance, you know, and stuff like that. I got Vaughn's Tree Service. He commits a little money now and then. Cunning Dynamics. The biggest people that I really have to thank, though, are Brian and Vanessa Grant. Obviously, it wouldn't be possible without them.
Right.
Brian's dad, Corky. This is his last season. Most everybody knows, but I'm trying to get him going. Trying to get him some wins too. So. It's his motor that's in the car right now, so he's helped out a lot. He does almost anything that I could possibly ask him to do for me.
So with the plans of trying to get up a division, are any resources going into building a second motor or building a second car? Are they being earmarked for it when they come in, or is everything going towards the street stock effort?
Both. I obviously feel obligated to replace what I've destroyed. so yeah, we will by the end of the year have a second car back. I'm not sure when, but it is in the works. The street stock, I'm going to buy one. I'm going to play with it just because I've always liked having them.
Mm-hmm.
My main focus right now is the championship. If I don't win it, if something happens, I don't win it this year, I will be back in it full time next year. I will not quit it until I get it.
Is there a particular Mustang that is the preferred four-cylinder? Is there a particular year? Is there a particular platform or combination that everybody sort of goes to and says this is the four-cylinder car to have?
The Mustang, I want to say yes, simply because of handling.
Okay.
You can't find another car that handles as well as these do. And I've noticed that it don't really matter what year Mustang, because if you look at J.J. Kreidler's car, he doesn't bring it out very often anymore, but when he does, if you look at it, it's an old Pinto.
Okay.
And when he's out there, there's a good chance that I'm not going to win if he's there.
So, Pinto, same body style as like a Mustang too?
Yeah, well, they're more the 1970s.
Okay.
The Pintos, the Mavericks.
All right.
Basically that body style back then.
Okay. Interesting.
They still got the springs and the shock. They don't. It was back before they went to struts. Sure.
And there's no real wheelhouse. You don't really want to trip over yourself to go find a 1987 5.0 Mustang just because it's got something particular about it. Got different flex. It's built more for performance. Any one of those Fox body platforms is potentially a winner.
Yeah. I mean the GTs. I'm not sure. I've never really raced a GT. To me, it seems like they'd be heavier, got more rotating weight, because when you run them, you got to run the 5-bolt rear. It's a bigger rear. It's just more rotating weight to me, and rotating weight takes horsepower away.
At the most elemental level, it sure does. Is there anybody else that you wanted to make mention of here?
We
hit everybody?
None other than my wife. She puts up with it all every week. I don't know how. Yeah, she don't either.
Right. Well, it's.
I think we've pretty much come along, and I hope the people that are listening, I hope that it's helped them come along with their program a little bit. Because even though I'm out winning every week, I enjoy competition. Yeah, I would rather run against 30 cars than I would 10.
Sure.
I love the competition.
Well, you've certainly got all you can ask for as you guys work through the season in that 4-cylinder division over there at Outlaw. Ray, definitely good luck. Wish you the best, and hopefully you come away with that championship. It was good talking with you tonight.
It's good talking to you, Chris.
Look forward to catching up with you. Keep us posted how the year's going.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
You too.
There goes Ray Hyer, looking to lock down that 4-cylinder championship over at Outlaw Speedway. That is going to do it for this edition of the 31st Lap. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us for a little while on a Thursday. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, talk a little bit more racing. Maybe we'll have more to talk about with Ray, see if he can pick up a couple wins between now and then. In the interim, next Thursday, we talking drag racing. Jason Oldfield going to be back in the studio. The Final Round podcast will be on. And coming up on Monday, Crash Course podcast, just like always, Crash Course is going to be on the air. So we'll be seeing everybody again Monday, next Thursday with drag racing, and then the following Monday with Crash Course, and then the following Thursday back here with 31st Lap. That's going to do it for this one from the North Park building here at Academy Square in Seneca Falls, the new FingerLakes1.com studios. We'll see everybody next time. Thanks.